good morning, and welcome into the Monday, August 30th edition of Leading Off, presented by Manscaped. My name is Brendan Tuma. I am joined by Dinger Dan Harris. And buddy, how was your weekend?
It was all right. I told you we were talking a little bit before. I mean, I feel like I had the very New England suburban dad weekend, little mini golfing with the fam, a lot of yard work, the old lobster bake with the in-laws. It's a good weekend, man. How about yourself? I heard you did a little glamping, camping,
I
bamping.
hate
I
the
don't know.
I can't call it camping. It wasn't in a tent. We were in cabins, but I hate the term glamping so much that I still just call it camping, but I'll admit it
Okay.
wasn't like the roughest thing, but it's still nice to get outside every now and then.
Yeah, I disagree. I would not go camping in a tent. I would not go camping. I'm looking for something that rhymes with tent that I could go with camping, like a green eggs and ham thing. But I do not do camping. No. If I'm gonna camp, it's gonna be like a 5-star hotel. That's how I roll, near like a woods. Like that's what I will do. But other than that, no, I don't do dirty. Like I can't really live with that.
Yeah, Go Cards is already telling
Go
us
cards
it's not
knows.
camping
Go
if it's
cards
in a
knows.
cabin. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so it was a busy weekend of baseball, though. I think there's a lot to get to, and I know I'm in several leagues where playoffs begin today, so it's a really important, kind of week to dive back in and get caught up.
Yeah, I will throw a shout out. I know he's listening. He's going to text me later. One of my very, very close friends named Adam, a friend from law school. He and I are in a league, a head to head points league. We are fighting it out for the last couple of playoff spots. We play each other this week. Playoff starts next week. The winner is going to make the playoffs. The loser is out. So let's give him some terrible advice so I can sort of, slide in there and make it okay. Adam, if you're listening, don't just follow whatever we say. It's gonna be fine.
Well, hey, maybe you want to recommend him Jesus Luzardo because that could go either way. After a brilliant start on Sunday against the Reds, six
Only
innings,
one
one
red.
hit,
Yeah.
no runs, eight strikeouts. This really truly came out of nowhere. I doubt, anyone started him outside, the craziest of leagues.
Hi, I was starting him. That's not
No,
a
you
joke.
didn't.
I swear to God, I did. I lost, obviously, in the thing. Look, in a points league, a deep points league 14 team, I picked him
Yeah.
up. Didn't have a relief pitcher. He's relief pitcher eligible. A starting pitcher getting 2 starts. I was like, how bad could it be? Looked pretty bad after the first one. But yes, I don't know. I mean, I am not trusting Jesus Lazard or anything like that. Like that was great to see. Maybe for like dynasty leagues, it gives me hope that you can regain sort of your pedigree a little bit. But I don't know where that came from. There's no way I am trusting it going forward.
Yeah, for me, I am always looking for the reason. So I don't just want to see, the great stat line and trust it. So one reason is he threw the changeup a ton more coming into the start. It was only 20% of the time this year, but he threw it 30% yesterday. He also threw the slider more at the expense of the fastball. If I can pinpoint something that might be happening, I'm more willing to give it a chance. But it's just one start. He gets the Phillies next
Mm-hmm.
this week. It's not, the most ideal matchup. So I want to monitor though, because if he does figure it out, he could give teams a big boost down the stretch.
Yeah, again, the problem is like I will trust Jesus Lazardo mildly if he does this 2 or 3 more times and high at that point where this season's basically over. So for
Yeah.
me, it's just I'm going to have a very difficult if you have the intestinal fortitude, that's my go-to, then go for it. But for me, this is much more about something like show me that you can regain the form that at one point made us think that you were going to be not just a decent fantasy starter, but a real impact fantasy starter. Much more
hmm
down the road for me, not so much this season.
Okay, yeah. Speaking of impact players, Wander Franco, and I love coming in with news like this. He's up to a 29 game on base streak, which only Mickey Mantle has a longer one for American League players under 21. Franco's been so much better in the second half. He's hitting 306 with an 865 OPS post All-Star break. It's been even better since if you take the number since July 30th. He's on a really nice tear right now, and this is gonna inflate his 2022 value, I think, in a big way.
As it should. I mean, we've seen almost every rookie come up this year and just struggle. I mean, that's just basically how it's been. And we've explained why we think that is. They missed a year of baseball. That's very difficult. But yeah, his numbers, the good thing is, like, you look at his season long numbers, right? 274 batting average, 6 home runs, 2 steals. Hopefully, fantasy managers didn't pay that close attention, and they'll look at the numbers in the end of the year, which will be fine. They'll be like, okay, this was fine. Chances are, though, with a prospect like Franco, everybody knows who he is, so disregard it. It's been great to see. I don't know about you, Tuma, where I had him. I held him the whole time. He was one of the guys I was just like, I'll ride. I'll hope he figures it out. And he really has. He's an incredible hitter. His long-term value is through the roof. Dynasty value, absurd. So really nice, as you mentioned, to sort of see him make adjustments, kind of figure things out as we go here into the second half.
I put out a tweet last night asking where he gets drafted next year. Kind of the consensus that was formed amongst most people was like third, fourth round. So
yeah, I mean, I look, it really, there's a couple of things. One is that fantasy managers love this type of player, right? Like, you just love it. You want the young, exciting. We don't know exactly what it could be. It could be anything. Let's see what it is. But also, again, as you said, like, he has made adjustments. That's the biggest thing that you want to see. And especially, he is 20 years old, like,
yep, just still 20.
Incredibly polished. So it's great to see. I will probably have very few concerns heading into next year.
I asked you last time we were on together if Salvador Perez would be your number one catcher heading into next year. You said no, and he apparently was offended by that because all he's done since then is continued homering. He has home runs in 5 straight games, in 8 of his past 10 games, and in 17 of his past 40 games. So where are we at with Salvador Perez at this point?
I moved him down to my catcher 8 for the rest of. I'm kidding. Look, 38 home runs and 94 RBI. I don't have the explanation for what this is. I really, really don't. This is bizarre. It's one of the most impressive catcher hitting seasons I've ever seen. Maybe the most. He's 31 years old, Tuma. Like, he's not going to be my number one catcher next year so long as JT Realmuto is healthy. He is my number one catcher for the remainder of the year. I updated my rankings this morning. As you said, you had that last week. I did not. I still preferred Realmuto. Now, Realmuto is a little banged up, but I have no explanation for this. This is bizarre and awesome, and Sal Perez is great. He's also played 130 games. Like, 129 games. Just preposterous. Awesome. I don't know. I have no words. What do you want to say about him?
Yeah, to get that production out of a catcher, at this point of the season is, he's winning leagues down the stretch. And what Dan said about it being one of the most impressive seasons for a catcher isn't hyperbole, because he's up to 38 homers. The single season record for homers by a catcher is Johnny Bench with 45 back in the 70s. That's well within reach. So he could set a record here.
Yeah. Again, I'm, obviously, Mike Piazza, one of my baseball heroes for sure. That was kind of in the heyday of my fandom when he came over and he really turned around the Mets. And that was the greatest hitting catcher that I ever saw. What is happening just this season, not long term. I mean, Perez is a great player, but like, this just makes no sense. Like 30, it makes absolutely no sense. So eventually he'll stop hitting homers. He still doesn't walk. Maybe somebody will throw him a ball every now and then. But for now, man, if you are one of these people who kind of just, I won't say lucked into Sal Perez, because you probably had to target him because he was one of the earlier catchers taken, you're probably winning your league right now. I don't know. It's awesome to watch.
Dan, you got a little twinkle in your eyes when you talked about Mike Piazza and the Mets. I could tell that brought back some good memories about your favorite childhood team. How are you feeling about that organization, Javier Baez, the fans, the media? It's just good vibes all around right now.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. It's a shame that Joe's not on this podcast right now, because Joe was messaging me yesterday about this. This is remarkable what we have right now. It's August 30th. I assume that our audience will allow me a very quick diatribe on the current situation. Tuma, is that all right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Holy crap. I mean, where are we right now that this is what is happening with the New York Mets? I understand playing in New York is a very, very difficult thing. It is very difficult. And my mother, cutest lady ever, was always like, I don't understand. Why do they boo people? It's not their fault. They're trying their hardest. What would booing do? And I get it, Mom. You're correct. But this is just kind of how we roll. And the Mets right now have been the most frustrating team in the world. And it's not just been a lack of production. It's been the horrific at-bats, the lack of approach. It has been warranted. I don't boo, but it has been warranted. And the idea that Javi Baez is going to come here and he is going to start doing a thumbs down to the fans as a way to basically give them a, pardon my quasi bad French, an FU is ridiculous. And look, Javi Baez is not going to be here next year. That's fine. But the idea that Francisco Lindor, who signed a 12-year contract, jumps on board with him, there's Joey P, is an absolutely ridiculous thing. So Javi Baez, I hope that the next ball you swing at doesn't bounce 10 feet in front of the plate and that you get a hit, because I'd like to win a couple of games. But I look forward to the day when you move on from the Metropolitans. Now I'm done.
We'll save the total Mets meltdown episode for when Joe does come back at some point, and because it is warranted. I won't get into it. We'll move on. Mike and I had a Red Sox doomsday week. I think last week it was, and they've since gotten a little better. But another down from the weekend, Sean Manaea, 4 1/3 innings, 5 runs. He allowed 3 homers against the Yankees. It's obviously a brutal matchup, but he has been horrible in August, a 9.90 ERA with a 6.10 ERA in the second half. Dan, I know you're someone who in your analysis is more willing to stick with the status quo until a longer sample size. Would you still start Sean Manaea this week?
He has a soft matchup this week, doesn't he? Did I make that up? Somebody write about his matchup. I know, because I have him in a league and I believe I'm forced to start him. I probably will. He hasn't been giving up. His contact that he's allowed hasn't been terrible right now. It's just been, it's been a little more of just regression to the mean in terms of, like, he's got Detroit. So Detroit is not, thank you, Bizza Rizza. Nice to see you again, by the way. Detroit's a good matchup. It's not the best matchup, but it certainly is a fine matchup. And I'm starting Manaea right now. Again, from what I've seen, he hasn't been getting hit that hard. It's been a lot of just kind of regression to the mean. He was a little lucky earlier. He's getting a little unlucky now. I throw him out there right now, but he's not somebody who I'm sticking in my lineup as a must-start option at this point anymore.
All right. Moving on to some weekend pitching standouts. Garrett Cole had 17 whiffs. He's just been fantastic since the whole sticky stuff thing. So no concern with him. Jose Barrio, 7 innings, 1 run. It was unearned, 11 strikeouts against the Tigers. And Dan's favorite, Wade Miley, had another great start. In this start, he had an 82.5 mile per hour average exit velocity. He doesn't even get that many strikeouts, but just no one can hit him. He's like the new Kyle Hendricks in that sense. So are you willing to eat crow on Wade Miley just yet?
Sure. I mean, I can't really argue against the numbers. He's got a 2.74 ERA. I mean, his whip is 1.22 and he doesn't strike anybody out. But yeah, I'm a guy who rides or dies. And this year it was dies with Kyle Hendricks. So if I'm not willing to eat crow on Wade Miley, then I'm not doing my job right. And when I'm drafting next year, and Wade Miley comes up and I'm staring at him and I'm comparing him to any other pitcher in that range, I'm going with any other pitcher. So I hope that this ride continues for fantasy managers who have relied on him. There is no way I'm going to be relying on Wade Miley next year. And he's going to be 35 anyway, so probably a few people are. But yeah, I'm wrong on Wade Miley. I'll own it.
Yeah, we've been talking about guys who we want to be early on next year, like the Patrick Sandoval types, the guys who are doing things under the radar right now. But Miley is one who I think you and I are both in agreement with. We will want to shy away from. Man, we got a great, anyone listening on YouTube, Fantasy Pros MLB on YouTube, Joe Pizzapia is in the chat today. He said his lawn guys just showed up. So impeccable timing.
Yeah, Joey's lawn guys were my favorite part of doing this show with him. Joe, I don't know, can you video it and like send it along or something like that so we can put it on our YouTube channel, something like that? I will say, Miley, by the way, we're not going to be alone in avoiding Wade Miley. I mean, we have to pound the desk for people to draft Kyle Hendricks, and finally, sort of, he stopped outperforming his peripherals quite so much. but people don't like the guys like Wade Miley, the relative, the guys who just don't strike out that many batters. And again, his walk rate is so low, right? It's finally under 3/9. He hasn't had that in, 5 years. So it's going to regress, but fantasy managers are going to know that. They're not going to target him next year.
My favorite part of doing a lot more hosting duties these days is it went from Joe talking about, he gets all the sexy names to talk about, Shohei Ohtani, and here I am in August baseball talking about Frank Schwindel and Wade Miley. But
Frank Schwindel is, I'm starting him in a league. There's in that league I mentioned against my friend Adam. So Frank Schwindel, who cares about Shohei Ohtani? It's all about Frank Schwindel this week. Let's go.
Don't worry, he's coming up here on the list. Joe Musgrove generated 21 whiffs, 9 shutout innings. He has a 2.85 ERA and a 0.99 whip. That breakout did happen. Cal Quantrill, he's someone who 7 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts against the Red Sox. The season-long numbers are pretty good, but in the second half, he has a 1.47 ERA. I've looked at the under the radar numbers. He does some weird pitch mix stuff. But otherwise, there's nothing else like screaming out to me what's going on. So I think he's fine to use, but I don't fully trust it.
I don't know if I would start him. I think he gets the Red Sox again this week. I mean, look, he performed well. Obviously, if they're down Kike Hernandez, which they obviously will be because he tested positive for COVID. And I don't know when Hunter Renfroe's coming back. I know he's on the bereavement list, but hopefully soon. But maybe if he gets a depleted lineup, but I don't know, man. Quantrill's just not a guy. Again, these are the types of guys, the guys who he's striking out, a decent number of batters right now, or he did in this last start, but he's striking out 7.3/9 right now. These are just not the guys. Like, I might ride them. I know Mayer loves every Cleveland pitcher, but these are the types of guys I can't get on board with right now, no matter how, unless I'm desperate or a 2-start week. On a 1-start week against a team like Boston, I just can't start him.
Yep. Couple other quick notes. Logan Webb had 7 shutout innings against the Braves with 6 strikeouts. He's allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in 10 straight starts. And then Frankie Montas had another great outing against the Yankees. 7 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 6 strikeouts. Frankie Montas, it's clear what happened. Through June, he threw his splitter just 17.9% of the time. Since then, it's been used over 30% of the time. He clearly has the feel for that pitch back.
Yeah, he was a guy who... Oh, I'm sorry, bud. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm trying to keep us moving here.
No, you keep moving. I didn't know. I thought you wanted me to because of the fact that I was so high on Frankie Montas. I thought you were letting me take a mini victory lap, but that's good. No, yes, you're right. The splitter is one of the best pitches in the game. He has leaned into it. That's what you need to do. A la Patrick Corbin with that slider a few years ago. It can really turn your season around. Go ahead, Tuma.
Some weekend hitting stands out. Those Cubs hitters. So Patrick Wisdom, he hit 4 homers this weekend. He's up to 25 for the season. Ian Happ has 4 multi-hit games in his past 9 starts. And then Frank Schwindel homered again on Sunday. If you look at his numbers, there's no regression. It's no regression yet, at least, because he's hitting .310 with a .921 OPS. Those 3 hitters, Wisdom, Happ, Schwindel, are they fine to use in leagues moving forward?
Look, yeah, we've got a few weeks left at this point. Essentially, you throw out your season-long evaluations. With all these guys could go into massive slumps. And we kind of saw Wisdom dip a little bit and then come right back. So I told you I'm starting Schwindel. I can't remember their matchups off the top of my head. I can look it up. But I do think that, yeah, for the most part, you can rely on these guys if you need to, especially in the short term. Again, this... I've said it many times before. Hold on, I'm just looking up Schwindel. They have 4 against Pittsburgh and 2 against Minnesota. It is not a murderer's row of opposing pitchers. So certainly this is the week, if you are going to rely on the Cubs hitters, this is a week I do not expect them to struggle necessarily. But again, play week to week right now. Pay close attention to the weekly matchups, because that's really how you're going to survive at this point. Fantasy managers are tuned out. They're looking at football. There should not be that much competition for the waiver wire, so go ahead and do it. If they go 0 for the week, it wouldn't absolutely surprise me. There's my garage door, but I would rely on them. I would rely on them specifically this week.
We needed, if only Joe was here and was, on video and everything, we could have the lawnmower going, the garage door opening at the same time, and both of you just trying to talk over each other to insult the Mets more.
That's pretty much what we do when we are not actually on camera. That's just kind of our vibe. I will say that I have given my wife full authority at this point to open the garage door at her convenience, because again, once we get to this point in the podcast, Tuma, I'll rule, everything's out the window right now. Go ahead. People, seem to appreciate the garage door. I don't know why, but yeah, whatever. You're going to hear that a lot more going forward.
Those Cubs hitters had a huge weekend against the White Sox as well. There's a ton of offense. Yasmani Grandal returned from the IL on Friday night. He went 4 for 6 with 2 homers, a double, and 8 RBIs, and then he homered again on Sunday. Obviously, get him back into your lineup. Luis Robert has been on an absolute tear since returning on August 9th. He's hitting 382. So if you held on or somehow picked him up, that's been a huge win. And then finally, Jorge Soler had 6 more hits, 2 homers this weekend. I know he can get streaky at times. He's been so much better since joining the Braves. Just keep him in your lineup at this point.
Yeah, I think that's right. He usually bats second, so you've got Freddie Freeman behind him. You've got the greatest hitter of all time, Austin Riley, back there. So he's going to get pitches to hit. And yeah, it's funny with Eddie Rosario, right? It's like Eddie Rosario was the bigger outfield move that they made, and he's kind of now an afterthought at this point. So yeah, absolutely. Soler, we know. And again, he hasn't been that bad anyway. Even, back when he was with the Royals, he wasn't that bad after that truly abysmal start. He had kind of started to turn it around anyway. So yeah, I do think that if you roster him, you can pretty much just leave him in your lineup for the most part.
We alluded to Kyle Hendricks already. 4 2/3, 8 earned runs. The thing with Hendricks is he's one of those guys, as he's going through the struggles, you're saying just trust it, it'll come around. His season-long numbers, 4.43 ERA and a 1.34 WHIP. He has not gotten the job done this year. I think it's been a bit of a disappointment overall.
I mean, I think to say it's been a bit of a disappointment is a generous way to classify. Now, the thing with this start is it wasn't that bad until I think the 5th inning, where basically it went from 0 to 60 quick. I think he gave up 3 runs kind of early. Then he settled down. He does this, by the way. He struggles early in the game. Then he gets into the groove. The problem is that lately, because he had that 9-run outing a couple of starts ago as well, he gets into the groove, and then suddenly it's like the 5th inning and the wheels come up. Because if you saw it, it was like he got 2 outs, then it was like single, walk or whatever, ground rule double, home run, and then suddenly you're like, oh my God, he gave up 8 runs. These types of outings kill you. And so I think he's basically at best a matchup starter. I will say he faces Pittsburgh this week. I am starting him in the one league where I roster him, because I think against Pittsburgh, I'd start you, Tuma, for the most part. So I think that in the matchup, you can start him, but anything remotely tough, I'm just benching him at this point.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys, once he loses even more, it's like a tipping point with his velocity. It's like once he loses too much velocity, it really lowers the margin.
By the way, Tuma, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head. Do you know how many wins Kyle Hendricks has?
I know he has an insane amount of quality starts. What does he have, like 10 wins?
14 wins. Yeah. 14 wins on the Cubs right now, which is just crazy, right? So that's kind of inflating his value overall. His value is still not good. Again, you mentioned 4.43, 1.34, not a ton of strikeouts. I don't know if this is the wheels have completely fallen off for Kyle Hendricks long-term, whether it's just sort of all the regression sort of happening right now. He's always been one of my favorite pitchers. But yeah, when you don't have the velocity, you need to be absolutely pinpoint with your control, and he just hasn't really quite been there.
Lance Lynn, 5 innings, 7 earned runs, 3 home runs. It was a bad start. The Cubs are somehow hitting hot. Let it go. Logan Gilbert, 4 innings, 9 hits, 5 runs. He's been disappointing lately.
Yeah.
He's one of my guys, but don't need to use him moving forward. And finally, Byron Buxton returned from the IL. That's good. But he went 0 for 11.
0 for 11 is bad. Look, what do you want? The guy's been out of baseball for like 17 months at this point. He's going to need a little time to get his swing back. The best thing with that hitter is, unlike a pitcher, you don't need to worry about them finding their like rhythm and timing, just because it does not kill you if they do not. Like 0 for 11, that sucks, but it's not something that buries your fantasy team like a Kyle Hendricks-esque outing. So if you roster Buxton, get him in there, let him start as long as he's healthy, and let him work out the kinks in your lineup.
Yeah, weekly lineups definitely get him in there. In honor of Joe Pisapia being in the chat today, we're gonna get to the
you gotta nail this, Tuma. He is watching. The GOAT of Manscaped Reads is watching. Don't screw it up. Go.
Listen, we still got a little bit of summer. You want to make sure you're looking good. You want to use Manscaped. which is the sponsor of Leading Off. You got to get the Lawnmower 4.0. It's a new multi-function on-off switch, which can engage Travel Lock, which is created for people who like to travel. You got your summer plans. You're going to the beach. You got to look good. The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you ability to turn the 4000K LED light spotlight on and off for those who need a more precise shave. You can get 20% off and free shipping by using the code Leading Off at manscaped.com. That is 20% off with free shipping. Code Leading Off at manscaped.com.
Joe's absence is felt significantly throughout this show, of course, and has been no more so than when we get to the Manscaped reads, where Tuma, you do an adequate job, of course. But I know Joe is out there right now, manscaping himself, taking care of it while he watches this show. And again, we miss you, Joe, and we definitely miss your Manscaped reads. Go ahead, Tuma. You did a fantastic job. I love it.
Thank you. I'm going to fly through some news and notes that I think are important to get to before we get to the home run leaderboards.
Sure.
I did not forget, at least yet.
Yay.
Patrick Sandoval is confirmed out for the season, just like we thought. So you can drop him. Kenta Maeda is also out for the season. You can drop him as well. James Karinchak was optioned to AAA. This is one I did not see coming at the start of the year.
I mean, you want I think Sticky Stuff had something to do with your success. We've got James Karinchak because Sticky Stuff had almost everything to do with his success. I hope he works it out. You've seen a lot of these guys struggle in the beginning, but he's obviously somebody you can drop. It's Emmanuel Clase. So yeah, that stinks.
It's a Tuma hosted show, which means we're going to talk about Keibert Ruiz getting called up to the Nationals, one of their top prospects acquired in the Max Scherzer, Trey Turner deal. It's just one of those things, Dan. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because catcher is a position. If you play, in a 12 or 14 team league and you don't have one of the top guys, personally, I think it's worth it just to take the upside shot on Ruiz instead of, a Christian Vasquez, type whoever. So
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that at this point. I think he's somebody who his pedigree means that he's somebody who should be started in single catcher formats going forward. So totally fine with it. Take the shot on the upside.
Yeah, and his thing was he always had the ability to hit for contact. And then at the alternate training like last summer, they turned his stance more upright, and now he's hitting for more power. And he still has the contact ability.
Yeah, he had 21 homers in AAA this year. That's a ton for a catcher in just in 72 games. So yeah, a lot of power, a lot of potential. Might as well give it a shot.
And finally, Ian Anderson came back from the IL against the Giants, 5 2/3 scoreless innings, no strikeouts, but that's okay. I recommended sitting him anyway just because it was the Giants, but now you can feel free to use him moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to play it cautious with these guys when they first come up, but that's great. Get them in your lineups, no concerns.
How are we doing on the home run leaderboards?
I just want to know. Yeah, Joe's doing well, and it burns my soul a little bit. But I will say that Joe doubted that we would get to 1,000 home runs. We might get there tonight. I love it. 986 home runs total for the weekend. The top three: D. Gordon Liddy, Randy, and unfortunately Joe Pisapia, who again has Bryce Harper into perpetuity, as everybody knows. They all added one home run over the weekend. Go Cards and Lawnmower Man 4.4. Surging 3 home runs over the weekend. Other weekend home run calls. Wonky Penguin hit Eloy Jimenez. Pygao Derek from Texas Ack, and Dinger Dan Harris, of course, with my Jordan call. All added 2 home runs. Helpless in Miami had Soto. So very quickly, the leaderboard. D. Gordon Liddy at 28. Randy at 27. Tough Guy. Joe Pisapia at 25. Go Cards Lawnmower Man 4.4 at 24. Wonky, Pygo, Useless Panic, Derek from Texas, Ack, 22. And then I am there tied with Helpless in Miami at 21. So again, 986. Everybody make sure you're in Discord, FantasyPros.com/chat. Make your call. Let's surpass 1,000 before we even get out of August. Make Joe Pisapia eat his words.
We had a question in the chat: who replaces Alex Reyes as the Cardinals closer? I did have him as a down.
Yep.
He's just been horrible since June. Again, I don't know if that's sticky stuff. He was kind of due for some natural regression. His whip is up to 140 this season. That's just horrible for a closer. I think it would be Giovanni Gallegos. I don't know if they're making a switch just yet.
I think they have to at this point. I mean, I think their manager said that they were gonna evaluate the closer situation. evaluating a closer situation almost always means that a guy gets a break, at least for a little while. And again, there was regression coming. He never had control. He struggled with it. He was able to get by without it, but it all came. I would say it's, Gallegos, but we'll have to see.
DFS, we have a 9-game slate tonight. There are plenty of aces to choose from. Zach Wheeler against the Nationals, Robbie Ray against the Orioles, Corbin Burns against the Giants, just to name a few, but there are other options as well. Do you know where you want to go with your starting pitcher selection tonight?
I'm probably going with Robbie Ray. He's roughly the same price as Wheeler. And again, against the Nationals, that's great. Wheeler, though, again, we've seen him start to struggle a little bit. My guess is it's probably just the massive jump in innings that he has shown. So unless he's facing the Mets, I'm a little hesitant. Ray's just been so good. We talk about him basically every single time that he pitches. So he's a guy who I'm willing to spend up for. I love Corbin Burns, but the Giants are just, yesterday notwithstanding, they're a scary lineup. So I think I'm going to go there. If I am paying up for pitcher, it is Robbie Ray for me.
Some price discrepancies, if you like taking advantage of that. Luis Garcia of the Astros is cheaper on FanDuel, and German Marquez is cheaper on DraftKings if you want to target that. Some game stacks: the Blue Jays against Chris Ellis and the Orioles. There's the garage door again.
Double garage doors today. I love it.
That's one of those names, Chris Ellis. Would you believe that's a major league player? Or is that,
that's not real. That's not real. I like Mayer's attempts here, but you can't just make up people. Mayer, we've talked about this. I know you try to do it every single time because you think Tuma is Ron Burgundy. Ignore my garage door. Tuma is Ron Burgundy. He'll just say whatever you put on the notes, but it's not a real person. Thank you, though.
And then the Rockies back home against AJ Alexi of the Rangers. Again, another one. So target Blue Jays and Rockies is the point. Who are some lineup builders we got?
Yeah, you've got Odubel Herrera, 2,800 on FanDuel, 3,900 on DK. Quietly had like a really good season, by the way, Odubel Herrera. So it's a little weird to say that. Brendan Rodgers against Texas, only 2,700 on FanDuel, a little more expensive on DK at 4,700. Connor Joe as well. I'm convinced now that Connor Joe is a real human, so you can start him 3,100 on FanDuel, 4,500 on DraftKings. Joey Wendell, been hot. Grand Slam the other day, 2 home runs, 2,600 on FanDuel against Boston, 36 on DK. Pavin Smith, 2,800 on FanDuel against the Padres, 3,000 on DraftKings. And Albert Pujols against the Braves, only 2,200 free square, as Joey P would say, on FanDuel, 2,400 on DraftKings. Again, basically free if he starts, get him in there.
Yeah, and one little note with those price discrepancies is I think things like the Rockies returning home to Coors, DraftKings hikes those prices up.
They really do
quickly, whereas FanDuel doesn't. So a night like tonight, you can get those Rockies hitters much cheaper on FanDuel than you can on DraftKings. It's time for the home run.
Oh, you didn't forget. Way to go.
Dan, is this your guess in here that I see, or is this an old one?
No, that's mine today. I always put mine in, so it's for you, Tuma. I mean, I had to think again. As I said, the Orioles don't have a real person starting tonight, a pretend person named Chris Ellis. And if you have a pretend person, then I just assume that Vladdy is going to be able to take a yard here. So I am going with Vladdy to homer off fake Chris Ellis tonight. Are you going to make a home, Tuma? We've got to get to. I know you don't like to do it. Take a Blue Jay. Take Vladdy if you want. We've got to get to 1,000 tonight, so make your call.
I'll take Bo Bichette, and this is just selfish. I need it for a big fantasy baseball matchup this week that I'm in. He's been killing me. He's been so bad. I know you recommended that I drop him, but I haven't.
You did. You should have a while ago. You don't listen to me. It's fine. It's your own funeral. So
okay, we got to everything.
I hope Joe is watching, by the way, because Joe, the Tuma awkward sign-offs are just his thing. And I think he now does it on purpose, but they're still glorious.
It'll be one of those things like a year from now. I will have grown out of it on podcasts and videos or something. Or maybe I won't. Who will have known? And yes, Mike, Bo did have a nice homer over the weekend. This has been Monday's edition of Leading Off. It'll be Dan and I again on tomorrow's show. Unless there was an update on that. But I do think it will be the two of us. We'll be here all week. For Dan Harris, this has been Brendan Tuma. This has been Leading Off, presented by Manscaped.